Coming up on Network Africa, economic hardship and insecurity persist 1 year after the coup in Niger. Kenyan journalists rally against alleged police brutality while covering anti-government protests. Thus, Ugandan group campaigns against domestic violence in rural areas. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in Niger, here in West Africa. There is growing frustration with the state of the economy in the country. 1 year into the military rule, challenges of the economy and security persist. The two reasons coup leaders say they overthrew former President Mohamed Bazoum. Now, the country's 26 million people, among the youngest and poorest, are struggling to stay fed and safe. The junta severed ties with key international partners who imposed sanctions and suspended support, affecting close to half of Niger's budget. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, all currently under military rule, have gone on to form the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, after announcing their separation from the regional bloc, ECOWAS. Over in East Africa, Kenyan journalists have held nationwide protests denouncing the increasing police violence against media personnel, covering recent anti-government demonstrations. In the heart of Nairobi, the country's capital, journalists marched around the central business district before gathering at the Nation Center buildings, holding placards and chanting slogans demanding justice and protection. Or similar scenes unfolded in other major cities across the country. A non-profit group in rural Uganda is turning to the stage to highlight the issue of domestic violence. It is also resorting to enlightenment through education and conflict resolution. Local non-profit Our Uganda says domestic violence is so widespread that it's hard to find a woman who isn't affected in the country. In 2020, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics discovered that 95% of women and girls had experienced physical or sexual violence or both after turning 15.
When people are in the vicious circle of poverty, violence tends to be so rampant because these people lack basic needs of life, where we find the food, the clothes, school fees, the shelter, and the other things that are so important in life. And as a result, the two have to disagree. And from a disagreement, just expect fights.
I realized that some women keep quiet with their problems in homes unless they get somebody to support them to move with them to the next level. Like, for example, those soul sisters, they say, no, if it means we can offer transport for you, with you, we go to court together, we go to the local council one together, then they give these women courage to speak out.
The reason why I became a member, because it helped me. And I'm now settled. I also want to help those people who are in the same problem like I faced in the past.
Going down now to Southern Africa, from about mid-2025, Canadian nationals, along with Germans, Americans, Britons, and nationals from 29 other countries will need a visa to get into Namibia. These include all non-reciprocating countries, meaning the new visa rules in the country will affect citizens from all countries that require Namibian passport holders to have visas. According to Namibia's Immigration Ministry, this move is necessary because although the country has extended gestures of goodwill and favorable treatment to nationals of various countries, certain nations have not reciprocated. The visitors will be able to obtain a 90-day visa at $90 on arrival in Namibia. Currently, Canadian nationals can enter Namibia without a visa. Statistics South Africa Stats SA is reporting that inflation has decreased slightly from 5.2% in May to 5.1% in June, in line with market expectations. The local inflation data released earlier shows a drop in overall food inflation as well as lower prices for housing and utilities.
The annual change in the consumer price index was 5.1% in June, down from 5.2% in May. Inflation has remained within the 5 to 6% range for the past 10 months. After stalling at 4.7% in April and May, the annual rate for food and non-alcoholic beverages edged lower to 4.6% in June. Food and non-alcoholic beverages inflation has declined from its recent peak of 14% in March 2023. June's reading is the lowest since September 2020. That's 45 months ago at the peak of the COVID lockdowns, when the rate was 3.8%. Several food and non-alcoholic beverage categories registered lower annual inflation rates in June, including sugar, sweets and desserts, vegetables, fruit, milk, eggs and cheese, and fish. Inflation quickened, however, for hot beverages, bread and cereals, oils and fats, cold beverages, and meat. The annual rate for bread and cereals saw its first increase in 14 months, rising to 5.2% in June from 3.9% in May. The monthly rate was 1.5%, with notable monthly increases for maize products, such as maize meal rising by 3.3% and SEMP up 3%. For some context,
approximately 733 million people faced hunger in the year 2023, equivalent to 1 in 11 people globally and 1 in 5 in Africa. Now, that's according to the latest State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World, SOFI, report. They published the report by 5 UN specialized agencies. The annual report warns the world is falling significantly short of achieving the Sustainable Development Goal SDG 2, which is zero hunger by 2030. The report also shows that the world has been set back 15 years with levels of undernourishment comparable to those in the years 2008 to 2009. If the current trend continues, analysts about 582 million people will be chronically undernourished in 2030, according to analysts.
Sadly, this year, the SOFI is showing that the numbers have not changed from the previous years, basically, which were already years where we have seen already the increase because of COVID-19. So what we are reporting this year is that we have between 713 million and 757 million people which are chronic undernourished, people facing hunger. This is 1 out of 11 people in the world are facing hunger. But the other issue, which is really important of this SOFI, is the disparities. For example, the region which is doing the worst is the African region, where we have 1 in 5 people facing hunger this year. South America has very developed social protection programs that allows them to target interventions so they can effectively move out of hunger in a very fast way because it's efficient. In the case of Africa, we have not observed that. We have observed that they still don't have the institutionality to deliver a good targeted social protection program. But on the other hand, is the region that has been affected the most by conflicts and by climate. And of course by slowdowns and downturns. It's a region that today is showing the bigger number of countries in food crises because of these 3 key drivers, and conflict being the first in this sense. We have 2.8 billion people that don't have access to this minimum cost healthy diet. The number is extremely high, is not improved relative to the previous years, and that tells us that we need to do a lot here. We need to change this paradigm of why countries have prices which are so high.
Honorable Ministers, Excellencies.
Well, still on the SDG 2 goals, despite some progress in specific areas such as stunting and exclusive breastfeeding, an alarming number of people continue to face food insecurity and malnutrition as global hunger levels have plateaued for 3 consecutive years. In 2023, about 2.33 billion people globally faced moderate to severe food insecurity, a number that has not changed significantly since the sharp upturn in 2020 amid the COVID-19 pandemic. IFAD's president, Alvaro Lario, speaking at the launch of the report in Rio de Janeiro, said that investing in food production in rural areas is the key to reducing hunger.
2008 World Development Report already showed that agricultural growth is 2 to 3 times more effective at reducing poverty compared to growth in other sectors, and up to 11 times more effective in sub-Saharan Africa. Therefore, if we want to eliminate poverty, we need strategic investments in agriculture, especially in small-scale producers who are also vital to food production. We must ensure that existing funds are directed where they are needed most. The SOFI report highlights that countries with the highest food insecurity and malnutrition are also those with the least access to financing, which just exacerbates inequalities. We need to create the conditions for attracting the private sector, which can provide a lifeline of access to capital, employment, technology, innovation, and markets. So we need to go beyond business as usual. For financial organizations like IFA, this requires increasing our risk appetite and be more involved in de-risking activities.
Let's take it back to one of our leading stories for today. Kenyan journalists holding a nationwide protest denouncing what they say is increasing police violence against media personnel that have been covering recent anti-government demonstrations. Let's listen to some of those journalists who were in Nairobi.
To me, this symbolizes the trade that I've done for 13 years or so. And to me, this symbolizes what I will die for, what I'll keep on doing. And me being here also is a symbol that we as journalists are not happy with what has been happening in this country as Kenya.
We are here to exercise our rights, our democratic rights, and that is the right to picket, right to freedom of expression. And we are here to exercise Article 34 that commands us and demands us to have freedom of expression, and to demand that the police should respect and government should respect us as journalists.
We have been victims. We have been victims of gagging by the state and also other arms of government. That is why we are putting these things on our mouth, just to show that we are being gagged not to speak. And so we want the Kenyan government, and we want also all other relevant authorities to respect the freedom of the media, which is enshrined in Article 34 of the Constitution. What we are asking is, why should you prevent us from covering Parliament, from doing our work on a free space? What we are asking is, just respect the Constitution, because it guarantees freedom of the media, no to abductions, no to censorship.
So when you suppress us, when you shoot us, when you tear gas us and we can't be able to relay the information, then it's not right. So we're here for our freedom, because if the media, we don't have freedom, then what is else? And it's becoming worse day by day. Of course, over time, we have seen this. Police brutality is wrong, so that is why we are here today. My colleague, who is our reporter in Nakuru, was shot actually 3 times. She had to undergo surgery. When you look at that video, she had no reason for being shot. She was totally on the right side. So tell me why she was shot. Right now she's incapacitated, she can't do anything. So together we have to do this. Yeah.
We'll take a break now on the program. Still ahead. Children at risk as Mpox variant hits Congo displacement camps. Please join us again for more details. Welcome back to the program. Let's check in with the war in Sudan. Spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, Stefan Dujarric, is conveying his principal's concern about the rising number of people on the brink of starvation in Sudan. According to him, rising food prices, access challenges, and the impact of conflicts are compounding people's limited access to food. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says additional funding is needed as the Sudan humanitarian appeal remains only 30% funded.
Turning to Sudan, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs continues to be extremely alarmed by the worsening food situation in the country. Almost 26 million men, women, and children are acutely hungry. To give you an example, that is equivalent to the entire population of Australia. Of those 26 million, 750,000 people are just one step away from famine. Rising food prices, access challenges, and the impact of conflict are compounding people's limited access to food. Last month, the price of local food increased by 16% compared to May, and that's also 120% higher than in June of last year. People's hardship only set to worsen when the rainy season takes hold. The Tyne border crossing, which is used to transport goods from Chad into the Darfur region of Sudan, is currently impassable due to heavy rains and flooding. Many routes in the southern part of Sudan are also inaccessible.
Let's move over to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where there have been 35 confirmed cases of Mpox in Goma since July 10, mainly among adults living in the displacement camps. The cases were caused by a new variant of Mpox that was first seen in the neighboring province, which seems to be better at transmitting between people than previous strains. But doctors treating patients at a nearby facility, a former Ebola treatment center in Muningi, say they have also seen 130 suspected Mpox cases, almost entirely in under 18-year-olds, in the last 4 weeks. Grace, one of those who lives in a camp for the displaced, has recovered, but her mother, Denise Kahindo, says she is still unsure how her daughter was infected earlier this month. Mpox is a viral infection that spreads through close contact, and it's usually mild but can kill. It causes flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions on the body. And here in Nigeria, 5 people have been killed following a building collapse at Arowo-Jobe Estate in the Maryland area of Lagos State. The permanent secretary of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, Dr. Olufemi Okeosonyitolu, who confirmed this in a statement, said the incident happened at number 13 Wilson Mba Street in the estate, and those who died were site workers. According to the statement, the agency received a distress call regarding a collapsed building at the above address at around 3:49 a.m. and this prompted immediate activation of its response team to the scene, and it was discovered that a set of 3 terraces under construction had collapsed. He adds that the 3 males who were recovered dead at the building were site workers.
Initial response efforts, by that we achieved recovery of 5 male adults alive, and of course 3 corpses, 3 victims that were dead, and of course one of them was taken one of the victims that was dead was taken to the mortuary. However, 7 was on ground to pick the remaining 2, and as a result of the ongoing operations, we discovered that the fatality was increasing gradually. So far so good. We've been able to recover the 5 victims dead and 5 victims alive. Out of the 5 victims that were alive, of course, 3 of them were taken to Bagada General Hospital, and 2 of them were taken to trauma center.
Still in Lagos, the government has served contravention notice on over 200 property owners and occupiers in Okwaja waterfront scheme in the Etiosa local government area over encroachment on government land. The Commissioner for Waterfront Infrastructure Development, Mr. Ekundayo Alebioshu, issued the contravention notice during an inspection of Okwaja and Lekki foreshore area. He says 4 contravention notices had earlier been served on the illegal occupants in the Okwaja scheme, and the government cannot continue to watch and see the state's commonwealth turn to private investments.
The Lagos State Commissioner for Waterfront Infrastructure Development, Mr. Ekundayo Alebioshu, senior officials of the ministry and security personnel visit the Okun-Aja area of the state to carry out enforcement exercise and clamp down on illegal reclamation and dredging along the Aja waterfront corridor. Some business owners have encroached on government land, leaving the officials with no other choice than to mark the buildings and issue contravention notice on the property owner. Those with makeshift shops along the beach area are also not left out. The commissioner says they will all be removed.
In 24 hours, they will remove everything now. So it's better you just quickly... Call you Mr. Stephen.
Property owners have also disregarded the building guidelines, encroaching the water shoreline, and those inter-beach operations are also not left out as they are guilty of the same offense. The state government issues a 7-day ultimatum to property owners who have taken over government land.
We've served about 200 houses today so far in total, based on the various contraventions that have been committed. Quite a number of people have already been allocated these plots, but there have been cases of encroachment by unknown people who have gone ahead to sell those plots to some people. I mean, there are people with allocation. Some have been threatened when they come to try to take possession.
On day 2, the same enforcement exercise continues in Lekki foreshore. The team visits a construction site, issues a stop work order, and workers on site were asked to vacate.
They pull it down.
Put it down.
There was a gate here.
Illegal dredging and land reclamation were also noticed in the Lekki foreshore area of Blue Bay Island, and some Chinese nationals were also arrested on Orange Island for illegal dredging and sand stockpiling.
Of course, you can see there have been cases of people dredging illegally. There have been, stockpiling on even our scheme, waterfront scheme. And of course, the reclamation or the stockpiling rather has actually affected the coastline protection, shoreline protection that we did. The people who have been building without waterfront clearance, and it's totally unacceptable.
The Lagos state government says all illegal occupants on the waterfront schemes should approach all necessary ministries for clearance before going ahead with any form of construction along the waterways corridor.
And finally, on the program, Governor Usman Ododo of Kogi State in north-central Nigeria is assuring residents of the state that his administration will redouble its investment in agriculture in line with the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu.
Officials of the Livestock Productivity and Resilience Support arrive Confluence University of Science and Technology, Osara, Kogi State, as part of efforts to set up a livestock service center within the university. This is part of the effort to ensure food security, as the university management promises to ensure the success of the center.
Our vision is to establish a premier livestock service center in Kogi State that leverages strategic location, industrial synergy, academic collaboration, and abundant natural resources.
On our own here, we're going to discipline ourselves because we are the gainer. Our students will gain a lot from what is going to happen here.
After the site inspection, the team returns to the state capital for a meeting with Governor Usman Ododo. Kogi State is the 12th state to indicate interest in hosting the proposed livestock service center.
The agri-mechanization going on in Kogi is second to none. We know how you are going on with your mechanization, touching the real livestock farmer and touching the real farmer. By having database and giving input, giving tractors, we have all this information.
The Kogi State government believes the center will contribute to the economic development of the state by creating jobs, enhancing productivity, and fostering sustainable development.
That project you saw is a project that is going to cost us over 7 billion. We want to reduce the risk of traveling 1,000 kilometers before you get to the market. From Kano, you stop over here. From Cross River, you stop over here, so that you transact your business seamlessly.
The highlight of the visit is the commissioning of a farm field school for animal husbandry for the Kogi State Polytechnic Itakpe campus and the commissioning of a solar-powered motorized borehole provided by the Zango Cattle Market in Adavi local government area of the state.
That's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.